pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on now to the roll call of members.
Frank Roll.
Here.
Mickey Ketty.
Here.
Frank Myers. George Weiner.
Here.
Jamie Ballman.
Here.
Jan Braun. Ed Luttrell.
All right, now we'll move on to approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting, November 17th, 2014. Is there a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
We have motions or a second from Mickey.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, approval of the minutes from the October 20th, 2014 and the October 30th, 2014 meetings. Is there any comments or motion on the minutes?
I move to accept the minutes from the October 20th meeting.
All right, we have a motion to accept the October 20th minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Is there a motion for the October 30th minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 30th.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Aye.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes for October 30th are approved. We'll move on to introduction of evidence.
I'd like to introduce the design guidelines for the St. Genevieve National Historic District, the municipal code of the city of St. Genevieve, and the staff reports contained in your packet.
All right, do we need a motion on that?
So,
Is there a motion on it? Do we have a motion to approve the introduction of evidence?
I so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from George. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to commission business. First action item is HPCA number 14-11-17, item A, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to install a front and side yard vinyl picket fence approximately 3 to 4 feet in height at 105 North 2nd Street. Is the applicant here? There no applicant. Is there any discussion of that item?
I wanted to relay, Frank, he apologizes for not being here, but he did ask whether or not this fence could be done in wood. And that would be a
I had
better
that-
alternative.
Yeah, I had that same question, why couldn't this be done in wood? Seems that it would go better than a vinyl fence, but if we don't have the people here.
I agree, I was just thinking it should be tabled because they're not here.
Yeah.
Here it goes.
Hi.
Ed. Oh, Ed here.
Well,
Well,
Then let me make a motion to table this to the next meeting, or until we can have a conversation with the
so
applicants.
we have the applicant present, okay?
Okay.
We have a motion to table
I have a
next
que-
meeting, yes, is there a second?
Have you mentioned that to
Second
them?
that.
I thought they were going to be here, so I don't know why. We talked about it. Originally, it was going to be, they were going to do wrought iron, and then they went to aluminum, and then they went to vinyl, and I said, what about wood? And, I think the issue is just maintenance, and cost, of course. Although I don't think really a wood picket is any more expensive than a vinyl
Yeah.
fence. I think they just want the maintenance free. I don't know that they're concerned about the corner. The corner they feel is pretty
Is that
dangerous.
their house?
Well,
Or is it a rental house?
no, I think that's their house. They're new. They're relatively new. The town is way.
I thought they would rent it.
Hello, yeah.
No, but I think these people are new, the way they described it. To me, the way they talk, I did not check ownership, to be honest.
Well, we have a motion to table it
Yeah.
from
I thought it was a rental house.
Mickey,
Okay.
Yeah, Tom
Right.
Tiger owns it.
and we have a second from George. So all in favor of tabling this till next time, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? All right, so we're going to table that to next time till the applicant is here.
Okay.
Moving on to HPCA number 14-11-17, item B, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to erect an addition on the rear of the home on the second story at 992 South Gabourey. Is the applicant here? The applicant on this one. Is there any discussion or motion on this in absence of the applicant?
Well, once again, I had questions. Is it, they're going to lift the roof? Is that the plan? from the
Yeah,
start?
it's, my understanding is that the roof, and I don't really understand the lift either, but it was gonna
Yeah.
go straight back out and then down, and they actually did change the plan. It was originally just gonna go straight out, but for whatever reason, they came back and changed the plan to go
Okay.
up, and I don't know if that's for headroom, I don't know the purpose of that. Her father was gonna be able to come tonight to answer any questions. I don't know why he's not here.
Okay.
So I don't know that it's, I mean, this house, we don't even know that really the date on this house, but I don't believe that it's,
Trouble when you do that.
yeah, I don't know enough about it. There was just no records on the house. But not good to tell us very much information. Certainly not historic.
Yeah, it's just
I
nice.
don't-
Go ahead.
I don't feel that the location of this home is as crucial as the other one.
Right.
But I still feel like that they aren't here.
This is gonna come off the back.
Yeah, this is gonna be off the back. The wife, the lady who did the application, she's pregnant and has a child, and her husband works, and so her father was gonna come. She just wasn't gonna be able to
Okay.
do that.
It
So-
honestly doesn't seem like a problem, but maybe it should just be tabled because the same reason they're not here to explain and answer questions.
I think, yeah, I'd certainly like to hear, you know,
But we're just playing devil's advocate, if they were here, what
Yeah.
can they tell you that you, I mean,
well,
we have a drawing,
Yeah.
we know the house.
Right.
yeah.
We really want to hold them up for another month, or do we just discuss it anyway?
Yeah, I'd say they probably raised it up for headroom.
Because they still have to go through Petrie to get a permit anyway, right? So
Yeah,
it's-
yeah. So we're looking at,
There's a
yeah, we're
plan.
working with the contractor to get
I've been
Yeah.
in
a
there.
little bit better plans.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what it is. I know what that house is. It's megalo.
Yeah.
That must be over the
That must
stairwell,
be-
you think, when they're
yeah,
going up? and they
that's
just-
my
Well,
guess.
the steps are like over
The
here.
back
Oh,
is
the
just gonna be three, I thought I included it, 3 windows across the back. It's just a flat front,
Oh.
there's really just not much to it. You see it on the
Yeah,
back?
yeah,
I mean, we're
yeah.
not
Yeah,
talking,
open it up, uh-huh.
they are gonna match the windows to the other windows with the divided light on top.
And while it's saying vinyl siding, does that match what's already on the house?
Yeah, that's what's already there, and there's mostly new windows throughout the house. I think there's a few that are old metal
I don't see
windows.
why
but-
we
So,
can't.
so
Yeah.
when you build this, really, you're not gonna know anything different, looking at the front of it.
Not
You're not
really,
gonna know that the roof is a little
because
bit
the
higher.
creek is behind them, so
Everything is
nobody can
behind
even
the house.
see,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
there's nobody, around them
Well, that
really.
house, the other house even blocks it, I think, from the
Yeah.
road.
Have to read
Right.
out
Yeah.
the blue, but that's none of our business.
Nope.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll
I
that.
second.
We have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries. We move on now to old business. Is there any old business? We move on to new business. Is there any new business?
I just wanted to, something came up tonight. Missouri Preservation would like to put on a Missouri tax credit workshop, which I think would be great for us all to participate in and encourage other people. And right now, they're looking at December 17th. I don't know about right before Christmas, but I still think, they're willing to put on this workshop for free, which is always a stumbling block to doing too
Yeah.
much. But obviously, this tax,
Where?
we could have it here.
Really?
They haven't really determined the location, but I offered up City Hall.
Okay.
I guess that was okay to do.
Sure. And if this doesn't work,
Heat's always on.
Yeah, there's nobody on the schedule.
yeah.
So,
Because we could have it at the foundation
Yeah,
offices too,
sure,
if you needed
sure.
a place.
Question on how many people.
right,
Yeah.
and so I think the success of it is getting people there. And it's not just having it, it's making sure as many people can come, because we're gonna they'll walk through an entire, portions of an application, so that, because it's quite challenging.
Yes.
And so to get people the money they need to do their houses, we need to really support that as much as possible.
How long is this?
Well, I think they were gonna do it for 2 hours. I suggested that it be at night, so more people
Yeah.
could come. I will let you all know when that's finalized, but once it is, I would really urge you to talk to your friends and neighbors, anybody who's thinking about doing a renovation, a rehabilitation, that they should definitely attend, because, that's good money.
Good money.
If you can get it, so.
And that would count as our hours?
Yes, and I think I was going back, and one of the questions that I had for you all was, what other things did you do prior to my arrival in the beginning of the year? Did you all have any kind of workshops or training sessions at all?
We've had like retreats for the commissioners,
Okay.
Where we meet off-site and go over issues and each time we've done that, it's been different things.
Okay.
I've gone to the Missouri Preservation Commissions and to the national one.
Okay.
And both times I did it on scholarship, that's available.
Right.
If people have the time that they can do it,
Okay.
Don't we have an obligation to engage the commissioners in some training?
Yes. Yes,
We
yes.
have so many hours.
And it looks like in 2013, there was a window workshop.
Right.
And then there was a thing in the paper where you could try to get people to go out and look at buildings and identify. That was a nice
Right,
little
that was
exercise
nice,
for,
yeah.
and then there was the Craftsman, the blogger. I don't know if that actually happened or not. I saw it in the minutes. A guy who writes on a blog all the time about.
And I don't know that he came and gave us any I don't remember doing that, but
Okay.
I remember
Yeah.
reading his stuff and getting information
Okay.
from it and going over it,
Well, I think,
On roofs, that was on roofs.
on the roofs.
Yeah.
I think at least starting next year, I want to be more aggressive about, I've kind of just been going along. And I'd like to hear your all ideas of what kinds of things you think we need to do and what you'd like to see and what you're hearing in the community. Besides, windows are always, always something that can be
Yeah.
talked about, but if there are other topics, and maybe we ought to have a retreat of some kind so we can talk about the issues that keep
Okay.
coming up and how we deal with them.
Everybody talks about the advantage of having historic districts, and one of them is the money that's available. I'm not aware that citizens have been, in large number, have been taking advantage of that, so I think education in that area will be important.
Yeah,
Well, that's where also the tax credits are,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Grants available to
Yeah.
yeah.
certain activities. I think we need to promote the use of the resources that are there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, is there any?
Yeah, I've got a question. The changes to landmarks that you've been working on, maybe you could brief us over that later on, because I got a lot of people asking me,
Sure.
they read part of the paper and then they try
Sure,
to
yeah.
catch. Even I'm unclear of what.
Sure.
Just the basics of, it sounds like, what I hear, we need a change, and it sounds like we're trying to get one, so.
Well,
Just one little bit.
approach it was much more difficult because we don't just have like one historic district, it's like pieces together, and actually, if you turn around, I used this the other night to kind of show what is going on and then kind of how the review process would go. I think the main thing that we cover through this is, one is replacement versus repair versus ordinary maintenance.
Yeah.
Making sure that definition is really, really clear. Two is protecting what's on the landmark register, which is the St. Genevieve Landmark Register, which is about 82 buildings, some of which are in the National Register District, some of which are not. And then the question really, the big question is, at what point do we cut off really review? And there are multiple opinions about, should it be what the National Register says, which is that third period of significance from 1902 to 1952, and whether that should get the same level of review as, early French exploration in 1750.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is the biggest question of all. It's not really everything else, the really old stuff, nothing would change. And it's really, the question is, what is the cutoff point for your all's review, or should the review be an administrative review? I mean, like if like this house that we just looked at came to us and I saw it wasn't historic and, you know, it's within code and it seems reasonable, I could pass on it and you guys wouldn't be bothered. But the date is a question. I did the cutoff at 1902 because it was very well defined in the National Register nomination, and I wasn't comfortable with, well, 1920, well, where does that come from? There is no good cutoff in there. So I think there was fairly strong opinion at the work session that at least the 1920 and older be covered. Some people said 1911. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, everybody has a different date because they want to capture certain houses. So I think those are the two big issues, is trying to get some administrative review on some things like an ordinary maintenance repair. If somebody even has a historic house and they're doing you know, they're just repairing, even if it's 100% replacement, standing seam roof, why do they need to come to you if that's what they have on the house, that's orders, and that's what they're going to replace with? Could that be administratively dealt with?
So are we pushing that fine line because we're a certificate city? Are we pushing losing that with these changes?
No. I mean, I talked to
It
this.
sounds like we are.
It might sound like that. Well, first of all, the state, they recognized, at least in my discussions with them, is that, you know, we are not the only community facing the vinyl challenge. And that isn't really, I mean, like St. Charles, they're dealing with it too, and they approve it too, and so that's kind of, if we can kind of take vinyl out of the discussion, the standards that I put in the ordinance are still the same standards that you all have in your ordinance now, which is keep the, you know, the heights and the fenestrations and all those things that you look at anyway would still be looked at. It's the material question. What material should we be using? And she did not think that it wouldn't impair the National Register designation. The National Landmark designation encompassed literally the whole city, as you can see up there.
Right.
And the problem with the National Register District is that even though the boundaries are identified, virtually no houses are actually identified in there. So theoretically, any house within the National Landmark District could be regulated. And we are regulating.
Right.
And I think that's the big question. The National Historic Landmark District, which encompasses both, the whole area, actually is only covered, their period of significance is 1750 to 1846. So anything after 1846, if it's not in the National Register District, really doesn't have any, shouldn't have any review, because it's not really a part of anything. So it's very confusing. If we had just one district, it would be really simple, and we could say yes, no. But because we have these three areas, the National Register District, which has the broadest definition, includes through 1952. We have H2, which is everything else, but it only really covers landmarks. And then you have the National Historic Landmark District, which is just the first period of significance. So it's very confusing, and it's very hard to write an ordinance, let me just tell you, around and maneuver around this to make any sense to anybody. But I think the big issues were...
What's 1952? Is that just because it's right after the war?
I think what it was, and this is my guess, because 2002 was when they did the survey for the nomination. 50 years is the cutoff.
It's that magic 50
It's that magic 50 years.
50 years are old and...
You're an antique.
You're an antique. You're automatically eligible to be historic if you're 50 years or older. And so I think they picked that, and they said most of the houses within St. Genevieve, within this boundary of the National Register District, are actually pre-1952. So they came up with the different periods. I don't know really why they expanded it, because they could have expanded it to include all those other, I mean, all those little yellow or red dots there are all landmarks that aren't included, like Frank's
Yeah.
house is not in the National Register
Boy, and
District.
it should be,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Our friends the Moores, their house is not included in the historic district.
Yeah, it's one of those,
It's one of those dots.
But it is a landmark.
It is a St. Genevieve landmark, so it is eligible for all the funding I mean.
Right, and it goes in front of the board.
That's right, right. Everything within this, within the H2 and the blue, it goes before the board.
No.
Yeah. And, well, it's essentially the same as the black line, too. Everything
In H2, it's
currently.
Oh,
Currently, yeah, everything comes before us.
Right.
So.
What did you say about H2 was never?
H2,
recognized?
well, you know, you go through the ordinances, and H2 was adopted with a map, but then we go to the ordinance book, and the map is missing. There's no verbal description of H2.
there is.
Very
Well, if
well.
you can find it, please let me know where it is.
It's in there right
No, we have a map. We don't have a verbal, we don't.
Yes,
There's
we
a
do.
verbal.
And
Okay.
your H2, the dates you're
me
coming
look.
up with, I'm gonna have to look over, but they sound so wrong. H2 was adopted first to get the French
Right.
colonial. That was the first that was from 1900
No,
back.
that's
No.
a H1.
No, that's H1.
Okay, but I was told and have it written that H2 wasn't, because I remember asking, why H2? Why didn't they call it H1? And that was from 1900 back, and it went down St. Mary's Road.
Well, that's,
And caught most of the.
yeah,
of our
H2,
town.
that's H2.
So that's the oldest part of our town.
No, no.
H2 is not the oldest part of our
No,
town?
no, the oldest part of the town is actually H1, which is the National Register Historic, the blue area.
Yeah.
So if the
We
Mississippi.
have an overlap.
We have an overlap. There's-
H2 came first,
Mm.
and then H1 overlapped.
H1
H1 came
was
first.
No.
And it seems to me like 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to not determine.
Call it that, yeah, just call it the whole thing the
The whole
historic
thing the
district.
historic
Right,
district,
right,
rather than
And-
decimating between H1 and H2.
And I worked with Bob Mueller, and we determined, we have the boundaries for the National Historic Landmark District. And the thing that you have to remember is, the Secretary of Interior first did landmark districts, before there was a National Register. And when they did it, their documentation requirements were pretty minimal. So there were 8 houses originally listed for a landmark. And so when the Secretary of Interior declared it a landmark, they said, St. Genevieve is a landmark.
The whole place.
Okay, well, what does that mean? And then they came back within the year and came up with boundaries, but listed a separate, different 8 houses.
Okay, different H.
Different 8 houses.
Okay.
And then that was it. And then the National Register came around, basically adopting whatever's in the landmark district in the National Register, but you still had the periods of significance.
Okay.
And so, from what I can sort out, this is the landscape as we know it today. And the idea here is literally just keeping the St. Genevieve Landmark Register, which has many of the buildings that are listed in the landmark and the National Register. And then questioning the review beyond that, I would say.
So we really only had 2 issues that was brought up at the meeting, and then the one was the date
The date,
and what is adjacent property.
Right.
How do you figure out what adjacent property
Well-
is to the landmark building? So,
well, and that really, that issue only comes up in the H2, because if you're in
Right.
H1,
it's
everything's in.
adjacent,
Yeah.
Right.
The adjacency issue is if, say, like we took Frank's house on North Main, before he could do anything, or the house next door could do anything, because it's adjacent and it might impact the
Sure,
context of
okay.
that house, it would be reviewed. So in the ordinance, I had just put adjacent houses had to go through a review to make sure they weren't doing anything
Okay.
negative.
Yeah.
The question was, well, what's adjacent? You know, should it be, you know,
Does that mean abutting?
abutting, does that mean
Property.
within so many feet, a
Right.
circular, you know, thing? And the planning number is 185 feet. That's what state law is, for noticing
notice.
purposes.
For okay.
So we
Okay.
could adopt that, we could adopt 300 feet, whatever, it doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah.
You have to think about it as, here you have a structure that has an impact, and now, next door, say like you have the Beckett Rabot House, which is a very farm-like setting, and it's lovely, and you know, you see the corn, and all of a sudden Mississippi Line wants to put a plant right next door.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Okay.
gonna destroy the ambiance for that house. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a far-fetched, hopefully,
Yeah.
scenario,
Yeah.
but that's what the context issue means. And so that would be reviewed for that purpose, but it wouldn't go through well, what kind of windows are you gonna have on that Mississippi Line building? It's more,
What is the
what is the
impact
impact
of
of
how it's
that?
gonna look?
Right,
Yeah.
right, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
So they could do something there as long as in keeping.
It didn't
Yeah.
negatively impact the
Yeah.
historic
So the
asset.
problem is, we have these two issues, and no prescription for resolving.
So it's just a question of what is most people comfortable with,
On the
and,
couch said, you know, what's the next step? I said, we're presenting you with an ordinance that you can either adopt or direct us to amend.
Right.
And the response is, these are concerns, resolve them. And we're like, pick one.
yeah, we're not, you know, we picked one because I could tell you why we picked it. We picked it because it's listed in the register, in the nomination.
There's sentiment among people who care about the community that
Yeah.
1902
Is not far enough.
Not far enough, and that maybe, but anything
Yeah.
that Petrie says, it's just pick a number, because there's no rational,
Reason for,
Yeah.
yeah.
and.
I mean, you could say, well, the Depression, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
that could be, because that's a
Well,
clear,
Frank has said that.
Clear.
Yeah.
That's a historic event.
Right.
That affected the
Really
nature of
building.
residential
Right.
construction.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely did.
Yeah.
It's a big,
So maybe that should be considered, but that would put you at 1932.
yeah,
Right.
you could go on. and
Yeah,
on.
that's why I always wondered about the war at 50.
Yeah, there you go. There's-
Well, and if you look at the houses that we struggle with,
Yeah.
they're all those post-war
Yeah.
worker housing, the vernacular, that doesn't really have anything remarkable, but what's cool about it is that it isn't remarkable, and there was a reason for that.
And you need to save some of those
Yeah.
to show what,
Right.
Yeah, that's like my house was built in 1925, and I went through the tax credits with the Secretary of Interior, and I've got aluminum windows that were in part of this house, and that's part of the history of the home, so they're acceptable. If before it was put, you know, before it was brought up, before FEMA or whatever bought it out, if somebody would have put vinyl window in the house, it would have been acceptable, because it just shows
What
age
the
of the house.
evolution of,
Find the administrative kind of burden, the paperwork and
Pardon?
all of that you find to be,
No, not at all. Mark Miles was in charge of it then, and it was all clear. I had no trouble. Only problem I had is I really didn't want to invest $140,000 in a house that close, and I bought it real cheap, so I kind of took advantage. You know, I just got a nice home, and I didn't want to get it done in a year, get it done in 6 months, and they were very
Yeah.
patient. They kept giving me extensions and all that, but I went through the whole thing, and it was 40 cents on the dollar from between the state of Missouri and that, and finally.
a lot of people are afraid because of the.
No.
The administrative burden.
I understand it's
You
very,
can-
very, very difficult now.
It-
I mean, from what Bob told me, is
I
that
mean, it's common sense. The problem I had was,
I wonder if residential is different from commercial.
he just said it was, you know, he just got tired of
you
waiting
almost
for
need an accountant,
approvals.
a lot of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But that's when you got big bills. My problem is I took digital pictures at first, before I did anything. And the house was recorded anyway because it was bought by FEMA. My digital pictures aren't acceptable because they can be changed digitally.
Oh, interesting.
In this
Can we
computer,
find it on camera?
I know, 30, so maybe it's acceptable now, but I had 200 pictures. And then inside the home, they didn't care
Yeah,
what I
they
did
can't-
inside
yes.
the home. If
Yeah.
they opened the door and looked, but my roof, my tuck pointing, my foundations, you know, there was immense amount of money that I could have made. And being self-employed and doing it myself,
See, I don't even think they'll
There's-
allow you to do it yourself now. I mean, sweat
No.
equity doesn't count.
no, but there's a way you do that. And everybody that's in my trade knows that you just get a bid, it's,
Yeah.
it's a hectic thing, but my biggest problem is I've got all the paperwork laying there, but my Home Depot receipts faded away in 4 months. They're just clear pieces of paper now.
Oh,
Yeah, so if you
So
are
make-
doing it, you video.
You have to-
make
you
copies,
make copies
Because it
of
come
it.
right off that paper.
We'll make them with a digital camera.
Don't make them with a digital camera, oh my
But no,
goodness.
Okay, yeah.
How long ago was that you were
Oh.
doing that?
12 years ago.
Yeah.
But I got all the paperwork, and there was a pawn shop lady, I think that was her name, but they're all helpful, they're so understanding. And I'm still under my deed that if something isn't right, if I don't fix it in such amount of time, they can take it. And I got irritated at the 3 houses that were sold and there was no improvement, because they've got rules on that too. And finally, Mark Miles, admitted we dropped the ball, Ed, we're gonna come back and start hammering them, and the city started to put fines on it. In 2 weeks, 3 of those houses sold, because they never
Yeah.
pushed it for 8 years. And
Didn't do
finally,
any
Yeah.
improvements.
Right.
I think we could all stand to learn a
Yeah.
lot more about those tax credits,
Right.
because I think there
Yeah.
are now,
Yeah.
they look very carefully at what you do, and,
Part of that is because of the controversy in recent years.
yeah.
oh yeah, the Chase Park Plaza made millions and millions over it, and that just hurt everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
The homeowner's a little bit different, but
yeah.
Seppi Interior is so much easier. I don't know why, St. John got that handbook and they adopted it as law. So now it's law, so whatever, you got the ability to change it. But the biggest stink that the state has had with St. Genevieve is when there's a problem here that we can't decide, it goes to the people, it goes to the alderman, which is so wrong in our law.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to an advisory board, and we continue to do that. But it's
Yeah.
not.
You mean if you all don't agree with, I
It's
mean,
supposed
if
to
you-
go to an advisory
Yeah,
board.
if somebody doesn't
I didn't know
agree
that.
with what we
Check out
have
that Terry
have
Norris
chosen.
is, did you get a copy of that? I gave it to Leslie.
Yeah.
Terry Norris, he was in charge of the Corps of Engineers.
He
and,
did all the historic stuff in this
Okay.
whole district.
Right, so the St. John
Yeah.
said they'll do this if you build us a levee to protect it.
Right,
Right.
right.
Well, so many years Terry came down because they tore down an old building. They just went against they're part of the
So
deal.
where is that deal documented? Because I have
Yeah.
gone through the files and I can't find
Yeah.
Well,
anything that
I
says
would-
that.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you talk to Terry, he's got some,
He's retired now.
he's retired, yeah, but he's willing
It
to
was
talk.
53 million at the time, and when I called, they know what it is now.
What?
The
levy
amount
cost?
that the city would, yeah, I
Yeah.
called, it was
No, I
50.
understand that. That's all
But
documented.
somebody's keeping record of
I
it.
just haven't found that statement
That
that
says
says that.
We would honor the,
That there's
that
some
what I-
obligation on the part of the city to adopt an ordinance or a set of
Yeah.
rules. I can't find that.
Did you read and then after the book?
So, a rule's different than the design guidelines or the ordinance? That-
Well, everybody says.
It was a contract.
One of the statements that's been made over and over again is, we have to do this, or we'll have to pay the money back to the federal government.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't been able to find that anywhere.
Right. And then he
you're
complained at the
probably not
time.
gonna
Pays
find
back.
it, just
No.
that,
Yeah.
stated that baldly,
What's
that
that
we
one
have
company
to
that's
pay
getting all
them
this
back.
money?
No,
that
there's
are-
all
He
sorts
just-
of references to the justification
Yeah.
of the levy is the historic resources of the city. I mean, there's clearly a
Yeah,
thing
Exactly.
right,
protecting everything.
right, right.
Right.
Yeah,
But then nowhere does it say, and do this or you gotta get money back.
He said,
Yeah.
in the end of his statement to the.
I mean, it'll take an act of Congress to take it back. It took an act of Congress to get it here.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it took an act of Congress to drop the contract.
So I'm saying-
Now that you have the
You're
contract,
not-
it ain't gonna take an
Only
act of
Congress is gonna undo that. If it were in the contract,
Yeah,
I
that's
would
what I
agree with
mean.
you.
Once it's
It's
gone.
It
not,
ain't there.
it's not in the contract.
Do we even have a contract? And it's not that
I
we'll
couldn't
abide.
find it. There may be another document somewhere.
He said,
Well,
at
we
the
could
end of
probably
his,
do a FOIA request for that.
at the end of his thing, he said to the paper, worst scenario, St. Genevieve gets a bill for not obligating their part of their deal.
Of protecting,
Based on-
protecting
All I wanna
the
do is-
historic.
His opinion?
No,
His opinion.
Based on that, this house over here, Landmark said you can't tear it down, and the alderman said you could, and it was tore down.
Okay.
A little smokehouse up there on Chadwell, that
Yeah,
was removed.
there was a move.
A little vertical wall.
I think it was moved over
Something
to
was
St.
done.
Oh,
Mary's.
on North
He had what,
Deborah.
a black
North
wrought
Deborah.
iron fence that was taken down and destroyed.
So he said that if you take any more down, that we don't have to pay the money back?
Well, he came in, and he brought his entourage, and first he wanted to know how, when this building was landmark said you can't tear it down. And then it went to the alderman, and they said you could. That's not a line to go to. It should have went to an advisory board,
It used to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment.
And somewhere between the last time there was a landmarks
Right.
ordinance that was done, and the newest one, it changed from going to the Board of Adjustment to the Board of Aldermen.
Well, you'll be happy to know the Board of Aldermen want nothing to do with demolition.
Well, good.
It was the last
Yeah.
meeting, they said, why are we seeing these?
Right.
Wasn't it the Board of Aldermen that approved the ordinance for landmarks?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If
Okay.
there's signature
You have the
shooting.
right
So,
to have it or the
so
right
I
to
believe
get rid
the
of it.
Board of Aldermen has the power
Well,
to
what,
decide.
what,
Yeah.
Since
no,
you worked,
no.
No, we don't have any power to change this. We have no power.
They
no,
have-
it's
Yeah.
the
Aldermen
council.
can change
It's-
The
Yeah.
I'm saying if
aldermen.
they,
Yeah.
if
The
they
alderman.
adopted the ordinance, they should be the body to which you appeal
Right.
Yeah.
a ruling.
Right.
Oh.
You
Okay.
Because they can always change an
You
ordinance.
basically work for them.
Right.
No, it
Right.
doesn't, well, how it works is we're a
So we
certificated
decide
city.
how you're gonna run things.
But we're a certificated city, if I'm saying that right. Means that we are upper echelon on getting grants all over. When the state starts, and the federal government starts handing out money and they see that your community has a landmarks, they're comfortable in dumping thousands of dollars here because they've got a watchdog, not the government. The government can't be the watchdog. So, for instance, there was a $20,000 grant given to a family here to put windows in. They audited them, and they could only find $5,000 were spent, okay? It's a shame, because you see the paper trail, everybody doing the auditing is part of the problem, okay, until it gets up to the federal, well, they didn't let it go that far, you know what I mean? So, when we're a certificate city, if we mess around with this and do what the Secretary of Interior doesn't want and give our government too much power, they'll just take our certificate away. Which,
Well,
do we
I-
care? There hasn't been any money dealt out in how long, but I think it'd be kind of embarrassing.
Well, I think we have gotten money for programs.
Right, I'm
I would
saying-
say no
Yeah.
money for
Well, I'm
projects.
talking about the
This
individuals.
downtown streets, but that goes back to
Yeah,
1985.
I mean, I'm putting together
Yeah.
the certified local
Right.
Yeah,
government
but I thought it
report
was
right
based
now,
on
and
what the house is and who's applying for it. Don't they do that? Do you do that?
Yeah, well, we got our guidelines, and you guys says law.
May have messed up.
So we have to go by the law, that handbook. You have the right to throw it away, change anything you
The
want.
city, who established landmarks?
Who established
the
it?
Board of
The
Aldermen,
Board of
or
Aldermen.
by ordinance.
Yeah.
They,
All right.
And
they
you're
have the
right, we
power
are
to
certificated, but,
Just landmarks would be.
and-
Well, that's
If you have an
true,
emergency.
I'm
but,
sorry.
People with the fence showed up,
Oh,
and they didn't know we were having a landmark meeting.
They said they
oh,
were here for a council meeting, we're like, council meets on Thursdays.
Could you call them real quick, see if they can come up here?
it was the fence lady, the fence people?
Yeah,
Okay,
you adopted it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I got
Yeah.
some literature you can read that would explain it very well.
well, taking you out, taking the Board of Aldermen out of the, if anybody doesn't agree with what we're doing, then it goes to the Board of Aldermen. If it goes to the Board of Adjustment, you're elected people, and all of the aldermen are elected officials, and they have to get reelected. And so, instead of being swayed, because it's one of your constituents that is saying, make sure I don't have to do what Landmark says we have to do.
Mickey, I really take offense of that.
You take offense.
You're not.
I'm not worried about
saying
getting
you-
elected, I'm worried
Yeah.
about doing what's best for the city.
Yeah,
If I do what's best, if they don't like it, then no reelect.
That's a good way to put it.
okay, well, that's good.
Not everybody's that way.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
was,
it's-
I know, but the thing is, I want to do the right thing. I like to balance it out,
But if we change this.
because landmarks looks at it as landmarks.
We look.
Everything they look at the houses or whatever, they look at it historically landmarks way.
right.
Well, we don't. I try to look at it both sides and see what's a balance.
Yeah, but that's what our job is
I
to
know,
look
and
at
we
the
take that in
history.
consideration,
Right.
your input into this.
Yeah, because we can't,
But it doesn't mean that you're always right, and it doesn't mean that we're always right.
no, oh, no.
I'm just saying
I'm not
that,
saying that. You know, but that's why it was originally the Board of Adjustment rather than the Board of Aldermen reviewing it.
Board of Adjustment, it's just another subcommittee of the
Yeah.
council.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it came from them and came to us, I can understand it.
Well, and
But it's just
two or
another layer
three
to go
times I
through.
have found, though, that it has gone to the Board of Aldermen, and they kick it back to the board, to the landmarks. You know, that the aldermen don't want to make a judgment on it, and so they kick it back to us. And, you know, but that's where the history was. It had been the Board of Adjustment, and then for whatever reason, it had gotten changed.
I left a message, they didn't answer their phone, so, you know, I'll just have to apologize and
Well,
see if it's
and-
like desperate for
Yeah,
them
maybe
to come
check,
in
yeah, if we need to
December.
have
A
We can
quick
cut-
meeting.
Yeah, I'm willing to come in early.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just have a hard time getting here, I just
Yeah.
got off work.
That's all
Yeah.
right. I couldn't
So-
get no message, so I said, we'll stay for a few more minutes, but we'll probably get done.
So you don't feel like you're jeopardizing our certificate?
I would never do anything to jeopardize their certificate, first of all. But I'm filling out the report now. I'm in contact with the state. We have certain requirements. We give them your all's resumes. We tell them what we've done. We show them our
Yeah.
records. They certify us and we're good to go. I mean, you would have to basically get rid of all of it, I think, to jeopardize that status. I mean, they want you to continue to look for landmarks
Yeah.
and do your activities. But I would be shocked if they, just because you know, said yes on a demolition of a house or that fell down or something,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
or, you know, did something
Yeah.
that, and I can't imagine you guys even doing something like that anyway, but, you know, in the event that you say vinyl's okay and it really isn't, they're not gonna take away your certified local government for that, because you have
I
a
would
process.
think so, yeah.
You have a process, you've been
Right.
through the process, you're doing the process the best you can.
So the question on the fence is whether they're willing to construct a wood fence.
Could we do a contingent, like a,
They
you
could
know?
approve the certificate approving a wood fence. If they consent, they don't have to come back. If they
Okay.
don't want to do wood, then they got to have another meeting.
I didn't.
Okay,
That's an
okay.
idea.
That's, yeah.
How about that?
Is that any
Okay.
questions?
How about-
So we need someone to make a motion to
All right.
reopen that thing, right? Since we
Let me
already-
make the
Take it off the
motion
table.
that we
You gotta take it off,
approve,
make a motion to
Motion on table.
take it off the table.
take it off, I make a motion to untable the
HPCA number 14-11-17.
14-17A.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so it is now untabled.
Okay. Then I make a motion that if they choose to make a wooden
No,
fence.
you're making a motion to approve a wooden fence.
Okay, we make a motion to
We still
approve a
need
wooden
plans
fence.
and drawings of it. We just can't
Well,
say-
we've got a
It
diagram
can,
of
it can look,
of where
yeah,
it's
you
gonna
could say it,
be. Yeah.
it can
And
look.
3 to 4 feet, we know we don't want a big
Yeah.
high fence, but they're not
It can
asking.
look like that.
You could say
Yeah.
essentially in the same form
Want their
as
second
that
Pick
with
it,
wood
pick it.
material.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's kind of,
Yeah.
put some
Yeah.
guidelines that we know.
Okay,
Yeah.
ju- Just to play devil's advocate, though, because I buy a lot of vinyl fencing in the real estate business, we do a lot of vinyl fencing. When you build vinyl versus wood, the wood looks more legitimate day one, but it starts looking terrible very rapidly. The vinyl looks great all the time. So if you make them do wood and they don't paint it consistently, it's going to weather, it's going to rot, it's going to break.
Yeah.
It doesn't look real good.
I
And
hate-
it's a fence.
You're right. Because first
So I
thing
mean,
is,
before we all say, oh, wood's the best, we've tested both, and vinyl's actually the best.
Then maybe what we need to do is
I'll
to
also
go
have to-
ahead and table it and have a meeting with them.
Well, either that, or let's just, I don't know. I wish they were here, I mean, they were
Yeah.
here. and
now, we have a
I feel
lot
bad
of wood,
because we can't.
womanized, pressure-treated fences that are around.
Yeah, but you could make that argument for anything wood versus vinyl. I mean,
Right,
the
but if- but if
vinyl will
everybody's
last
wood, I wish
longer.
you'd
I mean,
go-
you always have to
Yeah.
Go with
maintain
something you don't have to
Yeah.
paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if they were here, how would it affect things, I guess is what I'm asking. In other words, if,
I
you can
think-
imagine them here and they say, I want vinyl, and where are we at? Because they obviously want vinyl, they've applied for vinyl.
Right.
They could have applied for it.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they need to.
Well, then, I'm just untabling it, which we've already done, and somebody else can get through there and figure out what else we want to do. Do we want to?
Well, if there's any help in the, how about the guidelines?
Yeah,
To
that's a
them,
good-
how about
good one,
that?
yeah.
I think there is a thing on fencing.
Pretty vague.
It's pretty
Pretty
vague, but
vague,
it does
yeah.
talk about,
Height,
Hi,
it's more than just
Yeah.
height. It talks about material
yeah,
too.
not chain link.
Not chain link,
It's not recommended in the front of the house, but it can be recommended on the sides and
if it's,
the back.
if it's low, it can be
Yeah.
on the, it can be, what was the number? I have it on the
That's what's
report.
worse, the vinyl. That's what, to me, chain link
I do
fence
too.
looks
Yeah.
worse than vinyl.
yeah.
Where is,
It's
what is
there.
my,
I've
yeah.
got it paper clipped on mine, and I didn't bring mine.
That's all right. I wrote it down, PH 10. I just have to find it. It does talk about,
Like material.
H 10. Okay, so it says, where a historic fence exists, it should be preserved. Well, obviously, we don't have that. A new fence should be similar in characteristic with those seen historically. A fence that defines a front yard or side yard on a corner lot is usually low to the ground and transparent in nature. A fence or wall should not exceed 4 feet in height.
They're asking 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah.
So they're.
Solid stockade fence do not allow views into front yards and are inappropriate. However, they may be considered for French colonial structures in backyards.
Okay.
A wood fence should be painted. Note that using no fencing at all is often the best approach.
Okay.
It says appropriate fence materials include wood, iron, wire, stone, or plants. Chain link, concrete block, unfaced concrete, plastic, fiberglass, plywood, and mesh construction fences are inappropriate.
The guideline doesn't say vinyl,
It says
Plastic.
plastic.
That's plastic.
plastic.
Yeah.
We've approved quite a bit of
Fencing?
fencing. We just approved that one down there. the
Yeah, but not vinyl
architect lady.
fencing.
No, it's wood, I mean.
Yeah.
We
it's-
just approved
yeah,
wood and
we've-
wire for
yeah.
I
them.
don't think you ever made one.
I don't believe we've ever
No.
approved a vinyl.
I'm talking about the wood that
Yeah.
isn't painted,
Right.
you know.
We've done that.
And then, you know, the Balduc house, the JB Valley house.
JB Valley
is-
house,
Is
yeah.
surrounded, the Linden house is surrounded
Yeah.
by an unpainted fence. And I agree with Ralph, if you put wood up and they paint it, in 2 years, it's looking, you know, the maintenance is high.
What if they were to get a piece of this stuff as a sample, and mock it up there, and we can all drive by and stare at it for a couple days, and then decide? Because there's all kinds of factors on a fence. It's, you know, you're not going to be right up on it, driving by, and just see what it looks like. Because we've never done one before, so we don't know.
Yeah.
But it's really easy. You just go get one section
A
and
section and stand it up there.
stand it up there.
Yeah, they buy it in panels, and they'll buy it.
And then we make a more educated decision, because we can say, oh, yeah, well, we saw it, and it looks fake, or it looks fine.
I like the looks of it, I've seen it, it's an improvement, it still looks old. I've got nothing against it, but there's that wood, it's vinyl, you know, it's a vinyl
And
material.
if they mock one up, we all drive by, maybe we could do this by email as opposed to a meeting. No. No, we can't do that then, okay?
And it's sunshine over there,
No.
Mr. Sunshine.
Yeah.
Seems like an iron fence would go with it.
I think a picket fence.
I think a picket fence would be very cute.
When do they think they're gonna start this?
She didn't say.
Getting kind of late in the season.
Well, I think they're doing it to keep, I've noticed they have kids there.
Grandchildren.
Yeah, they have
Try to
kids.
keep the
Yeah.
kids out of the street.
Well,
Yeah.
that's-
It's a safety issue.
And they say, yeah, it was a,
And they got little
yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
They're gonna be pouring concrete with posts.
Yeah.
I don't even know, how are those fences secured?
People do it different ways, particularly concrete.
Are they?
Yeah, at the corner post and everything.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a wood post and it's got a sheathing of vinyl that slides over, you know.
Okay, we untabled it, so.
We untabled it.
So what do they retable it? No.
After further ado,
Yeah.
we decided to. Yeah.
I've seen a plastic fence that looked overbearing. It just looked too much for what a little picket fence should
Heavy,
look
look
like.
real heavy, I
Yeah.
know what you mean, yeah.
If it is vinyl, that is the board that they make decking out of, and they make that into a fence, I don't,
Composite?
yeah, composite,
It's gonna be
No.
PVC.
PVC, okay,
Polyvinyl chloride.
yeah.
These are probably the panels that you just buy the panel. It's a rail
just
with
stick it in,
slots in
yeah.
it, you know, that
Yeah.
it mounts. You buy it
Yeah.
in 8-foot sections. It's,
Yeah.
but
See, yeah, I think we just have too many questions of what kind of vinyl, and would they be open to wood and things like that.
Well, our book says no. So we like them here to work with them
Yeah,
to be, but our book says no. It's not, did it say not appropriate or
It
not?
says inappropriate.
Yeah, not appropriate, right. So we can, you know, they might.
And there's a picket fence in the picture as well.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
yeah.
So it'd be better.
I mean, it's easier to.
Well, nobody's making a motion. I'll make a motion to table it again.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I second.
Second to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's tabled.
And
Now
we'll
we
be
jump back
happy.
to citizen input. We have 3 citizens. Any input from anyone?
You have 2 citizens and a reporter.
2 citizens and a reporter.
Is there a reporter and citizen?
No.
Okay. So we have no citizen input?
And as for me.
Yes.
I think
Yes, we
if
do have
they-
citizen input. Okay.
Oh, okay, good.
This will be a lively discussion. With regard to what is in the definition of historic.
You still need to identify yourself.
You have to say your name.
Sorry, I'm Lauren Moore. My husband and Ed and I own 807 Market Street. This is this has nothing to do with St. Genevieve specifically, but it is about architecture. This is a property in the state of Florida. It is architecturally a craftsman bungalow. My cousin, you have one, there are others here. My cousin, who lived in St. Genevieve for 2 years, moved to Florida and bought this house. This is what it looks like now. To deny its insignificance because it is past 1902 or 1912 is missing a significant part of architectural history.
Right.
So I would encourage you to be very careful when you're adjusting your definition
Okay, yeah.
of what's subject to
Right.
review in the future.
This board doesn't get to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
You need to come to the board of Aldermen.
We did.
Yeah.
But not you did.
yeah.
Well, but
We agree.
but yeah,
This is just for,
We agree
Yeah.
with you.
just,
Yeah.
the 20s were a very good time for building.
there were some interesting features.
Really, very
You
beautiful
got one
buildings
built in the
Yeah.
20s.
We have a few.
They've even
yeah, a
reclassified
lot,
them now,
actually.
when they use the upstairs.
Your old
house
was one.
Another
Yes.
one,
So,
yeah.
One of,
which ones do we pick out?
Mine wasn't a Sears home. I mean,
Yeah.
people say it was, but we haven't found no identification.
Not every
And
one.
say, your house is very much like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
mine is,
So,
there's another name, they've returned them when you put a second story on them.
you know, everything's going to be historical someday.
It's the same house, but that this modern move that they did, they added another name to it, and I don't know what it's
Could
called.
you go back to the pre-picture? It's kind of hard to tell because it's...
So he put the post, they put the post
The
back
posts
where they
were
were
in the
supposed to be.
garage, thank God, when the lady
Beautiful.
took them
Yeah.
down. She saved them,
Beautiful.
put them in the garage, and he moved in and found them, and
Put 'em
he
back.
doesn't do the work himself, but he did hire it to be finished.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Now,
He
did you-
won an award from the city of Lakeland for this
Wow.
project.
Yes.
Good. Did you say that's an historic district or not?
It
It
is.
is in
It
the
is
historic
an
district.
historic district.
Wow.
And it's worth over $200,000.
It's
Well,
beautiful.
I know
Yeah.
places in Belleville where homes are just like that, but
Yeah.
they're not in the historic district.
Yeah.
Those people take care of their homes.
This is Lakeland, Florida, and much of the city is historic, so this is one of the older streets. It's actually brick. It's like a cobblestone street.
One of the seminars I went to was discussing the mid-century modern that is coming up very close to being,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
50 years.
50
The
years.
value of
so
that
yeah,
home
we're
is
being-
We're into it
where
Yeah.
it is, the lot it's on.
Well,
the
that's what- one thing I was wondering, what
The
about
problem we
from
have
like
is-
now
is our
and
homes like
each year
this,
it
that first
changes?
picture you showed.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's
have
why
been
I
rental
had suggested that
properties
we're
for
hundred.
The problem is that if you buy a house and you
So
think it's
you're
not
not
historic, you don't have to
capable
deal
now
with this. In
of-
5 years, it might be, and then all of a sudden, you bought into something you didn't really think you were gonna have to.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the rules
Yeah.
we made.
Because I think we need order in the court. Doing lots of dissent. We've got to say, all right.
Gone crazy.
So, I know I didn't have to use it. So we're not, because we've had a filibuster, is there any kind of motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.